This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey. The U.S. and allies are committing more rocket systems, ammunition, and other military aid to Ukraine as American defense leaders say they see the war to block Russian gains in the eastern Donbas region grinding on for some time. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says it will be hard work to keep allies and partners all committed to the war effort as the months drag on.
There's no question that this will always be hard work, making sure that we maintain unity.
Austin spoke at the close of a virtual meeting Wednesday with about 50 defense leaders from around the world. Army General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that unless there is an unlikely breakthrough by either side, the grinding war of attrition, as he called it, could go on for some time.
And unless there's a breakthrough on either side, which right now the analysts don't think is particularly likely in the near term, but unless there's a breakthrough, it'll probably continue as a grinding war of attrition for a period of time until both sides see an alternative way out of this, perhaps through negotiation or something like that.
The U.S. State Department has named 60 current and former officials, as well as some corporate figures, in its latest list of people suspected of corruption or undermining democracy in 4 Central American countries. This year's list especially focused on politicians, judges, and others suspected of working to stack courts in Guatemala, and the judges and prosecutors involved in cases against opposition political figures in Nicaragua in the run-up to that country's presidential election last year. Those listed generally become ineligible for admission to the United States and have their visas revoked. Follow us on the VOA mobile app. This is VOA News. Calling climate change a clear and present danger, U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday announced several executive actions and promised more, including funds to better protect vulnerable people from extreme heat conditions and expanding the offshore wind industry to the Gulf of Mexico. More from VOA's chief national correspondent Steve Herman in Washington.
The backdrop in the state of Massachusetts for President Biden's announcement on climate change action was a facility supporting the offshore wind industry that used to be a coal-fired power plant.
In the coming days, my administration will announce the executive actions we have developed to combat this emergency. We need to act.
To the disappointment of some lawmakers of the president's Democratic Party, Biden did not announce on Wednesday a formal declaration of a climate emergency, which would give him new powers and money to curb climate warming emissions. Steve Herman, VOA News, Washington.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, the U.S.'s top law enforcement official, is defending the criminal investigation into the January 6, 2021 United States Capitol riot, the AP's Ed Donahue reports.
Critics have argued Garland's investigation is moving too slow.
We have to get this right.
There's also criticism that some people could escape accountability, including perhaps former President Donald Trump.
We have to hold accountable every person who is criminally responsible for trying to overturn a legitimate election. And we must do it in a way filled with integrity and professionalism.
Garland says there will continue to be speculation, but pointed out a central tenet of the rule of law and how they work is that this investigation will not be done in public. Ed Donahue, Washington.
A bipartisan group of U.S. senators has reached agreement on proposed changes to the Electoral Count Act. That's the 19th century post-Civil War era law for certifying presidential elections. The law came under intense scrutiny after the January 6th attack on the Capitol and Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Recapping our top story, the U.S. and allies are committing more rocket systems, ammunition, and other military aid to Ukraine, as American defense leaders say they see the war to block Russian gains in the eastern Donbas region grinding on for some time. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says it will be quote-unquote hard work to keep allies and partners all committed to the war effort as the months drag on. Austin spoke at the close of a virtual meeting Wednesday with about 50 defense leaders from around the world. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey.